Now it's clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So in the last class we have discussed about the necessity of bioethics. So in this class we are going to discuss about the international ethics. So what are the ethics followed in international level? So till now we have discussed about our national level ethics only. What is bioethics? What is biosafety? And what is about research there in bioethics? Where it is used in biomedical or clinical or healthcare. So in this class we are going to discuss about the international ethics also. So before moving into international, we have to see some what is meant by research. What is the justification of research in humans? So it is impossible to reach the important conclusions without studying the humans. That is, in the clinical trials, we will be going for preclinical studies will be done in animals. So after that, the 4 trials will be carried out, which will be carried out by the humans. So in this COVID vaccine also, you can see now human trial is going on. Now we are in second trial, I think so. So human trial is more important because preclinical studies with the animal, we can conclude some effectiveness there against the particular disease or the virus or something. So with the humans only, we can able to optimize the parameters. We can able to optimize the dosage level. We can able to optimize the shelf life of the drug. All those things can be done in the humans only. After completing human trial only, the drug able to come to the market. So in this, we need to consider several research ethics, research justification. So we need to study the human physiologic studies because the animal response often will not be the same. In some scenario, animal and the human studies will be same, but more or less it will be somewhat different. So we can get a idea from the animal studies and we need to carry out the human studies for the complete physiological studies. And in epidemiological studies, they depends on the human susceptibilities and human interactions. So for that also we need to do epidemiological studies. So we need agents for treating humans because animal experiments don't always predict the results. So animals in animal studies we can get the maximum result, but also we need to try for human trials. In the human trial, the percentage of success of a particular drug or vaccine may be proved. So with that only it will come to an market. So what is next justification? If you are going to treat humans, you must study humans. So we need to study about humans. So what are things? Corollary, that is if you are going to treat certain kinds of humans, then you must perform studies with them. For example, children, if you are treating a drug for child vaccines or any diseases associated with the child, we need to study about the children's. Mentally impaired, if you are going for any mentally impaired diseases, treatment for mentally impaired candidates, we need to go undergo studies in mentally impaired candidates. And ethnic groups, particular groups, if you are going for any treatments, and elderly people, if you are creating any new drugs, either for sugar or anti-diabetic or any other diseases, cancer or some other diseases. So we need to go for that. We need to study them also. And then if you are particularly going for women, so women basically they'll have some certain issues or diseases. So for that also we need to undergo several studies. So in particularly the women has to be carried out. So they need to be trialed and then we need to confirm it. And then pregnant women also. So in the pregnant woman they'll have some deficiency or some other. So for that also treatment should be carried out. So for them also we need to treat. So for that also the human studies must be performed. So எந்த கேட்டகரியில நமக்கு வந்து ட்ரக்கோ வேக்சினோ தேவையோ அந்த கேட்டகரி பீப்புளை வச்சு நம்ம we have to go for clinical trial. That is the thing they are telling. So next is conflicting public health goals. So main goal என்ன நமக்கு அப்படின்னா we need to protect the uninfected persons. First thing வந்து uninfected persons protect பண்ணும். Then we need to protect the infected persons. This is the main 2 goals of the public health organization. Okay. So in the COVID also you can easily relate these things with the COVID because in a current scenario we are facing the same issue. Okay va, infected ஒரு பக்கம் நம்ம protect பண்ணிட்டும் இருக்கோம் and then uninfected வராம அவங்களை வந்து நம்ம எப்படி protect பண்ணணும்னு பார்த்துட்டு இருக்கோம். We are carrying out these things simultaneously in a COVID scenario. So ethics, it is already we have discussed more things, the ethics of taking action versus the ethics of avoiding action. ஸோ எத்திக்ஸுங்கிறது நம்ம ஒரு ஆக்ஷன் எடுக்கணும், ஒரு எத்திக்கலா நடக்கணும்னா அதுக்கு ஒரு ரெஸ்பான்சிபிலிட்டி எடுக்கிறதும் எத்திக்ஸ் தான். அண்ட் இந்த ப்ராப்ளம் இந்த ஒரு சொல்யூஷன் நம்ம எடுத்தோம்னா அதனால certain issues வரலாம், அதனால இதை நம்ம பண்ணாமலே இருக்கலாம் அப்படின்னு சொல்றதும் it is also a kind of ethics only. So it is nothing but ethics of taking action versus the ethics of avoiding action. So this also we have already discussed many times what is meant by ethics, a discipline of dealing with what is good and bad with the moral duty and obligation. So history of ethical research movement, இது வந்து ரிசர்ச்ல எத்திக்ஸ் வந்து ரிசர்ச்ல எப்படி கேரிட் அவுட், how they have carried out அப்படிங்கறது a small history. So first it was arrived Nuremberg code. It is a informed consent is absolutely essential. So ஒரு concerned people நம்ம எடுக்கிறோம், we are undergoing for trial, they should be aware of what they are doing, என்னென்ன ட்ரக்ஸ் அவங்களுக்கு கொடுக்குறோம், what are the parameters followed and what are the things we are going to carry out. These things should be, the particular consent should know about those things. Qualified researchers must use appropriate research design. So before moving into a human trial, there should be several protocols, standard procedures இருக்கணும், with that only they can easily carry it out. So there must be a favorable risk benefit ratio. Whenever you are going for a human trial, there should be a risk benefit ratio. The risk அதிகமா இருக்கு, benefits are less na, it will not be approved. அது வந்து further stage கொண்டு போறது, it is not advisable. So there must be always benefit must be higher, risk must be less. So it will be easier. Then participants must be free to stop at any time. So they are undergoing trial. So at any stage they can stop their trial. They have the certain rights. So it is only framed by Nuremberg Code at the time of World War II. So next is Declaration of Helsinki World Medical Association. In several years they have framed several set of regulations. That is, the well-being of the subject should take precedence over the interest of science and society. So எந்த ஒரு கான்செப்ட் நீங்க எடுத்து நீங்க வந்து ட்ரையலுக்கு போக ஆரம்பிச்சாலும் அது வந்து அந்த பெனிஃபிட் டு தி சயின்ஸ் அட்வான்ஸ்மெண்ட்ஸ்க்காகவும் இருக்கலாம், இல்லை அந்த சொசைட்டிக்கு ஒரு புது ஒரு இன்புட் கொடுத்த மாதிரியும் இருக்கணும். ஸோ அதே மாதிரி ஒரு டாபிக்கை தான் we need to choose. Consent should be in writing. ஸோ அந்த பர்சன்ஸ் யார் இன்வால்வ் ஆயிருக்காங்களோ அவங்களது எல்லாமே டேட்டாஸ் we need to be properly maintained. Use caution if participant is in dependent relationship with researcher. ஸோ இப்போ வந்து ஐ எம் அ ரிசர்ச்சர், இப்போ என் கீழே வந்து எனக்கு தெரிஞ்சவங்க யாரையாவது நான் வந்து கிளினிக்கல் ட்ரையலுக்கு கூப்பிடுறேன் அப்படின்னா அதுல வந்து செவரல் என்ன இருக்கலாம், ரிஸ்க் இருக்கலாம். ஏன்னா அவங்களோட ஒரு நாலேஜ் இல்லாம அவங்களுக்கே தெரியாம நான் வந்து அந்த ட்ரக் எல்லாம் அவங்க கொடுத்து டெஸ்ட் பண்ணிடலாம். ஸோ தேர் மஸ்ட் பி எ காஷன் இஃப் த பார்ட்டிசிபென்ட் இஸ் இன் டிபெண்டன்ட் ரிலேஷன்ஷிப் வித் தி ரிசர்ச்சர். அதை மாதிரி இருக்கக்கூடாது மோஸ்ட்லி. So it should not be like that. Limited use of placebo, especially if treatment is available. So placebo effects நம்ம வந்து போக கூடாது, limited use ஆ தான் இருக்கணும். And then greater access to the benefit once research is concluded. So maximum benefit இருக்கிற மாதிரி தான் நம்மளோட ரிசர்ச் வந்து இருக்கணும். We are going for trials. Generally research வந்து maximum benefits இருந்தா தான் we need to conclude it. Minimal effect இருந்தா automatically it will not be approved. ஏன்னா risk ஜாஸ்தியா இருக்கும், it will not be benefited. Next is Belmont report, that is the US National Commission for the Protection of Human Subjects of Biomedical and Behavioral Research. In 1978 they framed this commission. So they formed some guidelines, general guidelines, ethical principles and guidelines for the protection of human subjects of research. Human subjects research la use பண்றதுக்கு they have framed some ethical principles, that is respect for the persons, beneficence and justice. இந்த மூணுமே already we have discussed earlier, these three things. So next is Council for International Organization of Medical Sciences, CIOMS guidelines. It has been established in 1993 and 202. So earlier started Nuremberg and Helsinki and then now it is CIOMS. So the same thing, what are the guidelines given in CIOMS is informed consent. The consent should be informed with all the relevant studies. Research should be in developing countries. Developing countries la research நிறைய போகணும் அப்படிங்கிறாங்க. Next is protection of vulnerable populations. So we should not take several ஒரு particular population or particular region or particular community people, we should not take them for the clinical trials. அத மாதிரி நம்ம வந்து ஒரு particular peoples நம்ம எடுத்துக்க முடியாது. Distribution of burdens and benefits, அது வந்து எல்லாருக்கும் ஈக்குவலா இருக்கணும். ஒரு சாரார பீப்புளை மட்டும் எடுத்து நம்ம ஹியூமன் ட்ரையல்ஸ் பண்ணிட்டு அதுல இருந்து நம்ம சக்சஸ் பண்ணி கொண்டு வர முடியாது. ஸோ இட் ஷுட் பி காமன் ஃபார் ஆல். அவங்களோட வில்லிங்னஸோட தான் we need to go for ethics. roles and responsibilities of ethics committee should be framed. So ethics committee order, we need to follow the ethics committee roles and responsibilities. We need to follow the rules and regulations before going for human subjects. So basic concepts for ethical research. So this is already stated. Respect for the persons, individual involved in the human subjects, beneficence and justice should be there. So respect for persons is nothing but choices of autonomous individuals should be respected. Individual person involved in the human subject, they should be responded, they should be treated well. People incapable of making their own choices should be protected. அவங்களால decision எடுக்க முடியல அப்படின்னா அவங்களோட டிபெண்டன்ட் கிட்ட நம்ம எல்லாமே டிஸ்கஸ் பண்ணி we need to get prior approval and then only we need to go for that. So several protections should be there if the people are incapable of taking their own decision. Voluntary subjects need adequate information for decision making. So ஒரு trial பண்ணிருக்கோம், we have got some result, then proceeding into the next trial, they need to get approval from the volunteer candidates. So it is most needed. That is these categories comes under the respect for the persons. So next is beneficence. Participation in research is associated with the favorable balance of potential benefits and the harms. So அதுல வந்து நமக்கு வந்து ரிஸ்க்கும் இருக்கலாம், பெனிஃபிட்டும் இருக்கலாம். ஸோ இது வந்து ஈக்குவல் பேலன்ஸ்டா இருக்கணும். மேக்ஸிமம் பெனிஃபிட்ஸ் இருந்தா நமக்கு வந்து இட் வில் பி பாசிட்டிவ். ஸோ மேக்ஸிமைஸ் பாசிபிள் பெனிஃபிட்ஸ், மினிமைஸ் பொட்டன்ஷியல் ஹார்ம். அதுதான் as we said earlier, benefit should be more, risk should be minimal. Then only our project or the research or our protocol will get succeed. Next is justice. Participation in research is associated with a favorable balance of potential benefits and harms. So it may not exploit or exclude vulnerable individuals who may benefit without good reason. அதாவது இது பண்ணா எனக்கு ஒரு பயனே இருக்காது, ஆனா அவங்க கிட்ட நம்ம அந்த ட்ரையல்ஸ் எல்லாம் பண்ண முடியாது. ஓகேவா? தட் இஸ் த திங் தே ஆர் டெல்லிங். தி இண்டிவிஜுவல்ஸ் ஹூ மே பெனிஃபிட் வித்வுட் குட் ரீசன். ஒரு நல்ல ரீசன் இல்லாம அவங்கள வந்து நம்ம வந்து we can't go for human trial, we can't use them as a human subject. அந்த பர்டிகுலர் ஸ்டடி வந்து அவங்களுக்கு அது பெனிஃபிட்டா இருக்கணும், யூஸ்ஃபுல்லா இருக்கணும். அத மாதிரி இருக்கிற பீப்புள்ஸ் கிட்ட தான் we need to go for human subject, we need to select them as a human subjects. So these are the main three parameters, fundamental principles in the research: respect for persons, beneficence and the justice. So research is a privilege, it is not a right. அது வந்து ஒரு ரைட்ஸ் கிடையாது, it's a privilege. Okay, so the well-being of the participant is paramount. So participant ஓட இன்வால்வ்மெண்ட்டும் அவங்களோட well-being தான், it is an important parameter there. Okay, nothing other than that is needed. So assessment of benefits and risk. So research must be justified on the basis of a favorable benefit risk assessment for the research participant. Adeda as said. So we need to go for it. Before moving on to every project, we need to consider benefit and the risk parameter. எப்படி இருக்கு? If you are doing this project, what are the benefits are there and what will be the risk will be there, which is higher. அது மாதிரி we need to consider. This is similar to the principle of beneficence or do no harm. அதாவது இந்த விஷயத்த பண்ணி நம்ம பல பேருக்கு வந்து கெடுதல் கொடுக்கறத விட இதை பண்ணாமலே இருக்கிறது பெட்டர். ஓகே, ஸோ இஃப் யூ ஆர் டூயிங் திஸ் ப்ராஜெக்ட் ஆர் ரிசர்ச், இட் வில் மேக் மெனி பீப்புள்ஸ் இன் டு ரிஸ்க், ஸோ இட் இஸ் நாட் நீடட். ஓகே, ஸோ லைக் தட் இட் இஸ் செட் டு பி do no harm. Researchers must protect participants from harm and maximize their well-being. அதுதான் important target. So a risk refers to a harm or likelihood or of a harm. That is, the degree of severity of a possible harm may be unclear. Benefit refers to a positive value that occurs to the participant and or to the society. Benefit ingaradu ஒரு positive value to the particular person involving in the subjects or to the society. அதுதான் வந்து benefit. So என்னென்ன types of risk and benefits are there? Risk or harms and benefits may be physical, it may be physical, either pain or injury, psychological irukla risk irukla, social risk, economically and legally. These are some of the several types of risk and benefits are there in the before going for a trial. We need to concentrate on these things. So risk or benefits of research may apply to individual participants, families, groups or organization, communities or the nation. So it only depends upon the research. Research may apply to the individual candidate, or their family or particular group or particular organization or some other communities also. So we need to consider, we need to see before moving into the human subjects. So the risk and benefits to the research participant usually carry the most weight. So இதுதான் basic parameter. First fix பண்றது என்னன்னா நமக்கு எவ்வளவு percentage efficiency, how much efficiency of a drug or vaccine it gives is not needed. How much risk is there, how much benefit is there. It is the main thing needed in a research. Whenever you are going for research, it is the main target needed. So ஒரு vaccine கண்டுபிடிச்சிரோம், it is giving 50% only, but if it is giving many side effects na, it won't be approved. Either if a vaccine is giving 70% efficiency towards the thing, but it is giving minimal risk na, it will be approved. Okay va? So risk should be, whenever the risk should be less, benefit should be more. General principles. So there is absolutely no justification for inhuman treatment of participants. So the risk to participants should always be reduced to the maximum extent possible. Risk நம்ம reduce பண்ணிக்கிட்டு தான் இருக்கணும். If a risk, if a significant risk is involved, justification of the research must be examined with particular care. So அப்ப risk அதிகமாயிட்டே இருக்க ஒரு particular projectனா அங்க there need a judgment, there need a justification of the research. So with the ethical committee or some other committee, they will examine the our research and our outputs, what we have got. Then they will come to a final decision whether it is this project may be approved or proceed to further stage or not. Ethical procedure for international research. So what are the ethical procedures for the international research is available? So FWA, if you want you can note it down. FWA is nothing but federal wide assurance. It is a federal wide assurance. So institutions that want to engage in research that do not have an IRB, IEC may submit a federal wide assurance form. IRB is nothing but institutional review board. அதாவது institution want to engage, ஒரு institution particular institution அவங்க research பண்ணணும், but they don't have IRB or IEC approval. IRB is nothing but institutional review board. IE is nothing but independent ethics committee. இது வேணா நோட் பண்ணிக்கோங்க, if you want you can note it down. IRB is nothing but institutional review board. IE is nothing but independent ethics committee. In the approval illana, they can submit a federal wide assurance form that designates one or more approved IRBs that are already registered with OHRP. OHRP is nothing but Office for Human Resource Protections. So I'm having an institution, I'm going to do research in COVID. So I don't have any approval from IRB and IEC. So I can submit a form in federal wide assurance. So to this agency I can submit a form. Okay, so this federal wide assurance, they will have some approved agency before itself. Already they have registered with OHRP. OHRP is nothing but Office for Human Resource Protections. Okay va? So next is IRB authorization. So reliance on another institutions, IRB or IEC must be documented by a written agreement that is available for review by OHRP upon request. So in the two institutions, they should have the documentation. Whatever the research is carried out under their approval, they should have the written documentation. Okay, so it will be reviewed by OHRP, that is Office for Human Resource Protection. So they will investigate, they will come for inspection, and they will verify the documents. What are the documents they are having? It will be verified by OHRP. So OHRP sample IRB authorization agreement may be used for this purpose. So the IRB, if you need, if they need any authorization agreement, they can use from the OHRP. Avangaloda agreement process they can use. Okay, well, that is the thing they are telling. So future designation of other IRB or IEC requires update of the FWA. So future, if you want any positions in IRB and IEC, so it requires update of the FWA. FWA is nothing but federal wide assurance. So they need to get the updated version of the updated protocol of the federal wide assurance from that agency. They need to get the details. So foreign IRB approval, that is institutional review board approval in foreign. The research project must be reviewed by the designated IRB and IEC agency, and an approval letter issued by listing the IRB number and the FWA number of the institution conducting the research, and it is signed by the IRB and IEC. இது ரெண்டும் sign பண்ணிருக்கணும். OHRB is the overall agency, Office for Human Resource Protection. அது கீழ இருக்கிறது தான் FW, Federal Wide Assurance, and below that agencies are IRB, IEC. Okay ba? So research project பண்றோம்னா it will be reviewed by IRB and IEC. So avanga what they will follow, they will give a number, one number from IRB and one number from FWA. So these things must be verified and it is signed by the both the organizations. Okay, it will be further verified by OHRP. So multiple FWA, Federal Wide Assurances, will be there. So funded projects may be required to get multiple FWAs if they engage other institutions or their employees as partners or participants in the project. So if they are giving multiple projects, funded projects, they can involve other institutions, other employees also. So upon the different FWA will be there, Federal Wide Assurance will be followed. Okay, based on their researchers, based on their funded projects. So ethics course requirement, ethics, if you want to follow ethical committee, there should be a requirement for conducting ethical research. So all investigators must complete an approved ethics training course and obtain a certificate of completion before their proposals can be approved by IRB or IEC. If I am a researcher, I need to conduct a research in particular thing. I need to complete a ethical training course and I need to get a certificate certificate of completion before I am submitting to the IRB or IEC organization. என்னோட proposal நான் submit பண்றதுக்கு முன்னாடி I need to have a ethical clearance, ethical training. எனக்கு தெரியும், I need about ethical training அப்படிங்கிறது we need to have a certificate of completion. அது இருந்தாதான் we can go for writing a proposal itself. நம்ம proposal submit பண்றதுக்கு it is a basic eligibility. ஏன்னா யாருனாலும் எத்திக்கல்ல போயிட்டு நம்ம ஒரு எத்திக்கல் கிளியரன்ஸ் பண்ணிட முடியாது. எத்திக்கல் கமிட்டியில நம்ம போயிட்டு we can't perform the human subjects. Humans வச்சு நம்ம ட்ரையல் பண்றதுக்கு we are not authenticated. We need to perform a training course in the ethics. So research in populations and communities with limited resources. So two responsibilities are there. Prior to conducting research in a population or community with limited resources, the researcher should ensure the research responds to the health needs and priorities of the target community. இப்போ நமக்கு resources கம்மியா இருக்கு, either the community or the other facilities, what are things we need to consider? So அந்த பர்டிகுலர் டார்கெட் கம்யூனிட்டியோட நீட் அண்ட் ப்ரையாரிட்டி, அவங்களோட தேவைகள் என்ன, அவங்களோட ப்ரையாரிட்டிஸ் என்னங்கிறத we need to ensure it, and then ensure any product developed will be made available to the community. இப்போ ஒரு கம்மியான ஒரு ரீஜியன்ல நம்ம ஒரு ப்ராஜெக்ட பண்றோம் or we are doing a research in a limited resources, அந்த ஒரு கேட்டகரியில இருக்கிற ஒரு ஏரியால we are going for a research, two things we need to consider: needs and priorities of the community. இப்போ நம்ம அந்த பண்ற ரிசர்ச் either it will be useful for the particular targeted community, and then the product developed, it will be helpful to the community. We need to consider. These are the two responsibilities we need to consider a researcher. So responsiveness to community health needs. So it is not sufficient to determine disease prevalence and that new research is needed. So if successful interventions results from the research, that they must be made available to the community. Successful aids in our project, it must be available to the community. So if this is not done, the research is exploitative. நம்ம ஒரு ப்ராடக்ட் எடுத்துட்டோம், the product or the vaccine or any other drug or any other dosage forms, it should be available to the community. அதுக்காக தான் we are doing. So for that only we are doing research. If it is not done, then our research is no use. Okay, that is the thing they are telling. Responsiveness to community health needs. Making a prior agreement. So before the research begins, a plan should be offered in which the proposed product is made available to the host nation upon completion of the study. So if research is carried out in India, the person is from China or some other country, So if he is doing a research, first it must be implemented in the India only. Now China I'm from China or I'm from Japan. So I have done this product. So I'm taking it to my country. It is not an ethical thing. It is not a legal also. So before starting in research, we need to have a plan. Proposed plan we should have. Prior agreement should be there. So எங்க நம்ம research பண்றோமோ, it should be benefited to the society or the nation. First thing. Participants should include representatives of the nation, government, local authorities, community members, and the NGO groups. So அந்த participants வந்து அந்த நேஷன்ல இருந்தே இருக்கலாம், either government peoples, local authorities, NGOs, or some other community members. So these things we need to consider before moving into human subjects. So comprehensiveness of the agreement. So agreementல என்னென்னலாம் இருக்கணும்? Payments, royalties, distribution, cost, subsidies, technology, intellectual property. So these are all must be included in the agreement. Okay, so these are the main parameters which should be in the agreement. So in some cases, international organizations, public and private, may also be included in the discussion. So if it is a collaborative project, then these things should be divided. So how much percentage royalty will be there, how much percentage subsidies will be there, then rights will be with whom. So these things must be discussed and it should be clearly stated in the agreement. So ethics of conducting research in developing countries. So if ever should investigators use the standards of ethics of developing countries versus developed countries. So what are the ethics should be carried out? Or a developed country or a developing country, the work is going on. What should be the ethical thing? What the standard we need to follow? Are investigators responsible for the health of their participants? We need to consider what are things. So நம்ம பண்றது வந்து அந்த சொசைட்டிக்கு பெனிஃபிட் ஆகுமா அப்படிங்கறது we need to think it of. Can participants in developing countries understand the informed consent? So India is a developing country. If the research is going on here, the participants should know about their consent. Inna research போகுது, what they are doing, what are the outputs they have got, everything the volunteer they should know about that. That is said to be informed consent. Is it ethical to do research in developing countries on issues relevant to developed countries? So இது என்னன்னா பட் நாட் ரெலவென்ட் டு. இப்போ வந்து ஒரு டெவலப்பிங் கண்ட்ரியில வந்து ஒரு இஷ்யூ இருக்கு, அதனோட இஷ்யூ வந்து நம்ம வந்து இங்க டெவலப்டு கண்ட்ரியில வந்து பண்ண முடியாது. ஓகேவா? தட் இஸ் த திங் தே ஆர் டெல்லிங். இப்போ வந்து அமெரிக்கா செட் பி ஏ டெவலப்டு கண்ட்ரி. ஸோ அங்க வந்து ஒரு நீட் இருக்கு, தேர் இஸ் அ நீட் வேக்சின் ஆர் ஏ ட்ரக் ஆர் எனி டோசேஜ் ஃபார்ம். ஸோ அதுக்காக we doesn't need to do project here in India because India is a developing country. ஸோ நமக்கு பெனிஃபிட் இல்லாம ஒரு விஷயத்த we can't do that. It is not ethical. It is not a legal thing also. That is the thing they are telling. So these things we need to consider before moving into the project in the developing countries. Okay va? So யாரோ ஒருத்தரோட பெனிஃபிட்காக நம்ம இங்க ரிசர்ச் பண்ண முடியாது. It is not also needed. Requirements for community approval. Community must have legitimate empowered spokesperson. Community must have a common health related culture. A communication network for the community must be in place. So community people kita, if you are going for a certain community people, these things must be considered. So factors influencing voluntary consent. Voluntary they are coming for human trials, human subjects na. What are things we need to consider? Vulnerability to incentives, impact of community pressure, power of investigators to influence, ability of participants to understand goals and risks. These things are the factors which the voluntary persons faces. So idella we need to consider. Okay va? So research controversies in developing countries. So should placebos reflect international or local standards of care? Should participants be assured care beyond the trials? If so, for how long? Should care be provided to the trial community? Should trials be evaluated for scale-up feasibility before implementation? So these are some controversies arises in the developing countries. So these things we need to consider before moving into the human subjects.